In a world filled with challenges and opportunities, it's not just about having big dreams, it's about having the right approach to turn those dreams into reality. Whether you're navigating the competitive landscape of business or seeking personal growth, it's all about the approach.
And welcome to our latest episode of The Approach. I am your host, Dr. Davis McAlister. We call this show The Approach because when I worked in military intelligence, our success and failure depended on taking the right approach. And on the show, we discuss aspects of leadership, problem solving, and the approaches that have made our guests successful. My guest today, I'm absolutely enthralled and excited that he's going to come on. He and I have known each other for quite a long while, and he's got quite the story and quite the journey. He was born in New York, raised in Idaho, Alaska, and upstate New York, and was always chasing wild landscapes and harder questions. And that spirit carried him into the Army in 1987, where he served proudly for 25 years. He spent the first few years in the 4th Infantry Division and then earned his way into the 5th Special Forces Group, where he served 20 consecutive years as a Green Beret. Then that time shaped everything that he knows about leadership, grit, and presence under pressure. After retiring from the Army in 2012, he brought that same focus to the private sector, working with elite defense and robotics firms like QinetiQ North America, Physical Sciences Incorporated, and Robotics Research, helping develop next-gen technologies with real-world impact. He officially retired from the industry 4 years ago and now lives in Asheville, North Carolina. And from there, he creates. His work, whether it's camera traps or poetry or puppets, is about finding clarity in chaos, humor in hardship, and beauty in the wild. And this channel is part of his recovery, part rebellion and part curiosity. And if you would, welcome to the stage, Art Petit.
McAlister.
Hey, I'm glad you came on.
That intro was a little colorful. There were some things that were added in there, and I meant to take them away, and I apologize for that. I don't play with puppets, but
but if you would, I will read everybody's bio when they come on, but I want you to just tell us in your own words who you are, where you've been, and kind of what your journey has been. And there's a strategic reason why I've asked you to come on the show, and it's both a process of healing, hopefully to help others. So,
right on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. McAlister. I appreciate that. So you mentioned I was born in upstate New York. I was born in Orchard Park, New York, really close to the Buffalo Bills Stadium. I'm a big Buffalo Bills fan. Grew up in Western New York. At about 10 years old, I moved to Idaho. I went from Buffalo, New York to central Idaho, Sawtooth Wilderness area, Stanley, Idaho, population 68 when I moved there with my family. After living there for a few years, my parents separated. Father moved to Alaska. I moved to Alaska with my father. Spent a couple of years in high school there. And then fast forward to my graduation from high school, I graduated back in Western New York, in Hamburg, New York. Shortly after that, I joined the Army, July of 1987. I initially came in the Idaho Army National Guard, a program they had there. I went through my basic training, AIT. I was a teletype operator initially. So I was operating radios and keyboards and stuff. As soon as I got back to my unit, I was only home for a month, decided I was going to join the active component of the Army. And about April of 88, I was actually on active duty. In my active duty, I asked to go to airborne school. I was sent there. And then I was stationed Fort Carson, Colorado, 4th Infantry Division. My first duty station from about 88 until 92. I went to selection in 91, was selected to be 18 Charlie in Special Forces, went through the Q course as an engineer, reported to 5th Group, spent pretty much all the 90s in the 5th Group doing all the terrible missions that we had, and great missions too. We visited beautiful places around the world. And then right around 2000, I had made a transition from being enlisted and I became a warrant officer, which in turn I had to go back to more schools. But when I returned to 5th Group, I was assigned as Assistant Detachment Commander for a Special Forces ODA in 1st Battalion. And then fast forward a couple years, I got promoted to W2, got sent over to 2nd Battalion. And my career progressively went up. I spent 6 consecutive years as a team leader on a Special Forces team, which is significant. A lot of guys don't get to spend 2 years. I spent that on 3 separate ODAs. I was on a strategic reconnaissance team for a while. I was on a Halo team for a while. And then I was on a special projects team for about 2 years, all within 5th Group. We went different places around the world.
Yeah.
5th Group is my home. That's where my family is. When you spend 20 consecutive years in the same unit,
Yeah.
great experience. You miss the military. I don't miss the military. I miss the guys. All I got to do is think about all the BS that we had to go through. Let me back up a little bit because this is part of the story. In 2003, I was training in Florida with some Air Force counterparts, and part of the mission was we had to do fast ropes on top of a building, and I fell. I was the fast rope master. I fell on top of the building. And what happened, find out weeks and weeks later, but I had ruptured some discs in my back.
Yeah.
It didn't slow me down or anything. I was still in my 30s and stuff. There was talks of surgery, but then this new medication that everyone was getting, Percocets, they were given out very easily. And if the Percocets didn't work, there was always something else that we could get from the doctors. This was all prescribed and stuff. So fast forward through all the stuff. While I was in the military, I had 6 back surgeries. My body slowly deteriorated over about 10 years.
Yeah.
I got 2 levels spinal fused, and then I have an artificial disc in place in my back.
Yeah.
And that's just because of getting pounded in the ground. So with all those surgeries, I was prescribed narcotics for almost 20 years because it extended past my retirement date as well. Not only was it Percocet, but I was on Valiums and Adderall and all kinds of other stuff. And I was drinking on top of all that. So I wanted to keep that in place. Retired out of the military, worked with some great guys while I was in the military who got out right before me, a year or so before me, and paved the way for me to enter the civilian workplace. Of course, I was nervous like anyone else. I'm going into a job where I'm wearing a suit and a tie. And I was a business development manager at QinetiQ North America for special operations business. Only worked for that company for about 8 months. Our whole business line got laid off, which was really surprising to me. First civilian job I had, 8 months later, get laid off. Then they like, hey, we're going to give you a year's worth of your salary.
All right.
I already had other people knocking on my doors for getting jobs and stuff. I ended up working for Physical Sciences Incorporated out of Andover, Mass, as a training and services manager. The company manufactured man-portable handheld drones. So I was teaching drones to military guys, everywhere from special operations, 10th Mountain, Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard. We're all over the place. That job I did for about 6 years, and it was a hard job. For 6 years, I was on the road 200 plus days. The last job I had was with Robotics Research, doing the same job, training and services manager, and working special operations contracts that they had open. Since then, after I retired, I've been doing a lot of diving, met this wonderful friend of mine, blonde lady. All the years of taking medications, drinking, and everything else finally caught up to me. And Karen saved my life. She did all the research, found this place in Texas called Warrior's Heart, who is co-owned by a retired special operations guy. The facility brings in first responders, military, strictly. That's all they do. I went there in 22 for my addiction to the medications. Didn't think I had a drinking problem at all. In fact, drinking was my solution to when I didn't have pills. So this whole big cycle. So I went there and I stopped taking prescription medications, narcotics, 3.5 years ago. After I had left treatment then, about 6 months later, I had relapsed and started drinking again. I didn't think I had a drinking problem, but it progressively gotten worse. And then in September of 23, I had gotten a DUI. At that point, there was nobody else to save me. My friends were gone and everything else. So I self-admitted myself back into treatment and spent a year in getting this monkey off my back. And I've been sober going on 20 months right now from alcohol, and then over 3 years from drugs. The things that I have learned being sober now, at the age that I'm at, you hear when friends pass away, they pass away of natural causes or they die in their sleep. But knowing how I was and knowing how some of my friends and people that I know drank as heavy as I did, I know the reasons why they died. My best friend, I visited 2 days after me visiting him, he passed away. because of drinking. The suicides rates go up with people that are on narcotics or drinking. Tack on TBIs or PTSD and anything else that can be formulated into a former soldier, it magnifies it. It gets worse. By the grace of God, I'm sober today, and I'm certain that I'm going to stay this way. Because once you feel how good it is to be completely sober, it's a good feeling, and not having to chase the drink or chase the pill every single day. That, to me, it killed me knowing where I was at in my military career, my civilian career, and then look how far I deteriorated just in a really short time. That the biggest thing is someone, you got to ask someone for help. You can't do this on your own. You got to ask for help. And my phone today is on 24/7. I wait for guys that need to talk to me. I've never been that reliable before to have a phone on all the time and not passed out on the couch or whatever. It's important to me to make sure that you're there for the guys when they need it, or guys and girls, women. When I went through treatment, as both men and women suffering the same exact thing. You find out when you get into places like this, you're not unique. Your career's going to take you to different places, but when it all comes down to it, the two people sitting in this treatment together, you're both alcoholics. How do we figure this out? I submitted to everything. When I was in treatment, I volunteered for every single thing that I could take, every head therapies, eye therapies, everything. I took advantage of all of it, and it seems to work. That's where I'm at now. So I don't know. That was a Reader's Digest abridged version, but
Let's go back a little bit. There's a lot of things that I want us to be able to touch on. Kind of share some of the stuff. Being in the military is hard enough, and then you add special operations into it, and especially doing it for as long as you did. I always want to try to touch on a little bit of the leadership stuff, and problem solving stuff, and you made it up as a CW. Can you kind of share what your perspective was as far as leadership was concerned when you were with the teams? When you were and I know you're in different levels, because when you got out, if I remember right, you were in the headquarters. And there was a lot of guys that knew you. You and I have some mutual friends that we've talked back and forth and communicated on, both on you and things that happened with the teams. But if you would kind of share some of your background with that.
My time in Special Forces and 5th Group, I entered as a 18 Charlie engineer, junior engineer. My senior graduated with me. He just outranked me. Grew up on the same team for about 5 years, same ODA. And as I, of course, get promoted, I think I went from E5 to E7 on the same team. The promotions went relatively quick, but so did responsibilities. On an ODA, you have a lot of responsibilities when you're in garrison, but also when you're deployed, when you're training host nations and things like that. So keeping up with your job, your language is always important, but in 5th Group, we all had to speak Arabic, and it's the hardest language out there. So keeping up on it was really hard. As I progressed within Special Forces, as soon as I went to ANOC, O&I, Operations and Intelligence School, I came back, and then I was Intelligence Sergeant on a Halo team in 1st Battalion, 5th Group. Spent about 2 years on that team, and then had to go work in purgatory at the Group S3 shop. And during my year there, I decided to put in my warrant officer packet. So this is about end of 99, beginning of 2000 is when I put in my warrant officer packet. Got accepted. I had to go to the old school Fort Rucker place where they shave your head and make you march all funny and stuff. So I went through that, went back to Bragg for the basic course, got to group as a Wobbly 1, and was assigned as an assistant detachment commander for an ODA that just got a brand new captain. So I was like, oh man, this is gonna be great. Great team. Fast forward my time over into 2nd Battalion. When I got promoted, I had to move to a different battalion because of how they stacked all of us. I ended up being company warrant officer in 2nd Battalion, and then moved on to be a team leader on 2 separate ODAs in 2nd Battalion. So leadership there, I was constantly given, my commanders loved me for whatever reason. When it came in there, they're like, you want to be the team leader for another team? I'm like, oh, twist my arm. Part of that reasoning of becoming a warrant officer was I wanted to continue my time on an ODA. I was a senior E7. I've seen a lot of my friends that are making E8. I always wanted to be a team sergeant. That was my end state. The way careers move in the military, about your 14th, 15th year, you're going to be going to the schoolhouse or get promoted to E8. But then once you're in E8, you got 2 years left on a team and that's it. I spread my time out very well as a warrant. Ended up closing out my career in the 5th Group Force Modernization Office, which was very helpful because that set me up for the jobs that I did on the civilian side when I actually retired. My job there was to find companies to make widgets for the guys. If the guys I want this widget made, find someone that can make it, and then give them too much money to make the widget. That's it. But I did uniforms and we did everything but like body armor and guns. We could buy the guys anything they wanted.
Yeah.
It was a good job. It was a good closing job for me. I didn't think I was going to retire, but then the Army told me that I was going to have to go to Tampa. And after spending 20 consecutive years at Fort Campbell, I don't want to go to Tampa.
Yeah.
So I just told my branch manager I was going to retire. When I say 25 years, I'm just rounding up. It's 24 years, 8 months, and 12 days in the Army. I went from private E-nothing to I retired as a CW3. I don't know if I would have got promoted if I would have stayed in, probably. But I enjoyed every minute of it, and again, missed the guys.
Yeah. I know the teams depend a lot on their warrant officers because there's not a lot of commissioned officers that are able to make it into those ranks and be able to be a part of those teams. So I know that they're very dependent on their warrant officers. So during that time, because I know some of the other people that were in 5th Group, they had gone on certain deployments. There's the story of the horse soldiers. I know that they were in 593, 595. But did you have any deployments during that time that you can share about?
Yeah, of course, 5th Group was the first wave into Afghanistan. After more troops have moved in there, we rolled out and other units started filling in Afghanistan. Everyone's got their opinions about Afghanistan. Anyway, 2002-ish, 3-ish comes around, and we're getting these news that we have to head into Iraq. And we're like, why are we going into Iraq for? I go all the way back to Gulf War. And then right after the Gulf War, I was in 5th Group. So I was in Kuwait all the time. So I was in the Gulf region the entire time. I was like, why in the heck are we going back over there for? But then fast forward, and then we just did back-to-back rotations in Iraq. I believe we hot swapped with 10th Group the entire time we did our deployments in Iraq. Partially, I retired in 2012. There was a period in there where I worked on special projects team. Simply say it was, we helped with security things in embassies is what we did.
If you would kind of share what was your approach to leadership, especially when you finally got assigned to a team as versus being an E7 versus being a warrant officer. Was there some differences there that as far as how you led and some things that you learned in that?
Yeah. When you transition from enlisted to an officer, as an individual, I was an E7 I was enlisted for 12, 13 years, then become an officer. Then you're going back to the same unit where all your buddies that you used to work with and drink with and do all kinds of crazy stuff with, now you're put in a position where you're going to be in charge of them. The leadership, when they bring us back to the unit, they do a good job of making sure that they spread us away from where we used to be. Yeah. I don't know how I got lucky. I ended up back in 1st Battalion, spent a couple years there, then went over to 2nd Battalion. So I stayed in my own battalion, but most of the guys that I went to school with, and there was 5 of us in my class from 5th Group, we all got spread around. Yeah. Making that transition of knowing now the decisions that I'm making can affect the lives of others, not just in combat, but also I have to ensure as a team leader that these guys are training harder than what combat is going to be. And between myself and the team sergeant's in charge of everything. But that's a big responsibility. When you're assigned a mission as a team leader, or multiple team leaders have to go in and find out who's going to get a particular mission, and you're competing against other ones, that kind of shows where your leadership is if you end up being the one that gets selected for a mission.
Yeah.
Your planning, your training, everything that rolls up to things like that are significant.
So as you're going through, I know with a lot of group guys, they tend to not move around as far as in between different groups, move around within their own same group. Did you ever see a whole lot of changing around where people got sent to other groups?
No. If I wanted to change groups, I would let my leadership know at the time of me graduating the warrant officer basic course. If I wanted to get assigned to a different group at that time, I probably could have.
I was just curious because I've never met any guys that had changed groups
Right.
Most of the
Yeah.
time they went into one group, they stayed in that group.
So what I've seen a lot of not with the warrants, but with senior enlisted guys, when they start making sergeant major, I started seeing those guys get cross-pollinized and stuff. Because I know I've had guys that spent their entire career in 7th Group be the command sergeant major for my battalion. So you did see a lot of the sergeant majors, and probably battalion and above is where you see the biggest movement of people outside the group. Everybody below that usually sticks around. So
I never interacted with anybody above the battalion level. All my interactions were with people that were still basically in teams, companies. What were some of the differences as far as the way you approached leadership as an enlisted versus when you became an officer?
to be honest with you, I don't think that my leadership changed that much. I'm not a totalitarian type leader. What's best for the masses is we'll all work out the problem.
Yeah.
If there's a decision that has to be made at the end, I'll make the decision. I don't know. I never was a guy that yelled at people unless it was something significant. You need to move from there to there. But I was never a guy that yelled. I mean, I'd make guys cry talking like I'm talking to you right now. All I'm gonna do is say I'm disappointed in you. I'm gonna have sergeant majors are gonna strangle me when they hear that. Warrant officers, they do have a continuity on that team. They've got to have 2 MOSs. So you got to, like I was an 18 Charlie, 18 Foxtrot.
Yeah.
Some guys have 3, and then you become a 180. So you are a subject matter expert because you have filled a couple different positions within that team.
Yeah.
Me being an engineer and then being an intelligence guy.
Yeah.
No offense, but I was an operations guy. Intelligence is needed. That's all. That drives everything. But as an SF warrant, you have your choice to go down the intelligence route or stay on operations side. And about your W2 to W3 years is when you switch off from that. And then guys end up being stuck in SIFs and behind computers all day long. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stay operational as long as I could, and I did.
Yeah.
But intelligence, I still had to do that stuff too.
Yeah, I love working in Intel, and I was very thankful for the opportunities that I got. Being able to work in the intelligence community, I really enjoyed that. I know that was my experience.
Yeah,
I enjoyed being in that. It's its own little world. You actually are cut off from everybody else when you're in that community.
Yeah. That's the one thing is when you when I walked out and retired, leaving, I don't even know what I can compare it to. I guess it may be like a kid going to college or something. Mm-hmm. That nervous feeling you have, what am I going to do when I step out here?
Yeah.
And of course, all the worrying is for nothing, because as soon as I stepped out, jobs were there. Jobs are still available if I want to work something.
Yeah.
I got too many hobbies to work anymore, but that's the one thing that the military kind of prepared me for. Every job that I walked into, mm-hmm. progressing up in positions and stuff like that, I always walked in the job being like, what in the hell am I supposed to do? And you figure it out. The person that's supposed to do that right seat ride with you and all this other stuff, it never works out, and you're stuck figuring it out. So I was like, every job I've ever walked into, I just said to myself, I'll figure it out. And it's worked out for me for whatever reason. I could walk into any office and you tell me that you're going to hire me for this. I'm like, all right, don't know nothing about it, but I'll figure it out. And that was helpful when I worked for Physical Sciences Incorporated. That company, I'm not sure how many employees, probably about 500, but 80% of the company is doctors in their fields and sciences and stuff like that. I was the first person with any military experience ever to work for that company.
Oh, wow.
So that was a big transition for me.
Yeah.
And anyway, it ended up being a great job, and I learned so much from being in that environment, working with brilliant engineers. The things they come up with, sometimes it's great and sometimes it doesn't make any sense. And that's where I fit in.
Yeah.
And I was helping develop things. But yeah, anything I walk into, I could figure it out. So it's kind of worked out for me. So
yeah.
It took me a long time how to figure out to quit drinking though. It took me a while.
Yeah. So after you got out, you went through some different civilian jobs and those things. You and I met in that transition period. We met just before you had made the decision you needed to go to Warrior's Heart. Do you want to talk about what you were going through at that time? Because I know there's a lot of guys that were going through stuff, and I'm hoping that maybe you can share something that will sound familiar to them and come off that, hey, I need to do something different.
Yeah. My typical day prior to going to Warriors the first time for drug addiction, my day consisted of, do I have enough pills to get me by for the rest of the day? And if I didn't, what am I going to do? Of course, after taking narcotics for almost 20 years, I wasn't taking the doses that was prescribed. You'd run out of medication, and every month I go through this whole cycle of withdrawals, and prescription would get refilled, and I'd be going through this whole cycle. And everything that I did revolved around making sure that I had enough drugs, Percocet, Valiums, Adderall. I should have shared another picture with you that I had of me. When I went into treatment the first time, I weighed 145 pounds. My normal weight's about 170, 180 pounds. I was in pretty bad shape. I don't remember the first couple of weeks of being in treatment, but as all the fog lifted away, it felt pretty good not to have that constant desire of having to have the meds in me. It's a bad cycle to be in. It really is. When I would go through all these cycles, going through withdrawals, my drinking would decrease in those times. I would drink till I passed out. And for a while, I drank beer, progressed up to whiskey. And I was putting back a fifth of whiskey before I went to treatment this last time. I had a glass of whiskey by my bedstand. If I woke up in the middle of the night, I had to drink it. Prior to going in treatment this last time, my right hand shook nobody's business. It was constantly shaking. Yeah. I always contributed to nervousness or tick or something. Always done that. That was DTs, delirium tremens. My hands were constantly shaking from not being able to drink, and I didn't recognize it. Of course, with abusing drugs and abusing alcohol, other things are going to fall apart. Relationships fall apart. I guess I can share. I've been married 3 times. So first marriage is just short-lived. My second marriage was almost 20 years. My third marriage was after knowing the lady for about 2 weeks. I was in the peak of my addiction then. Anyway, coming all the way back through treatments and stuff like that, the things that I've learned about myself, if there's traumas in your life, you can't work them out in your head. You've got to talk to somebody. Yeah. I was never big on talking to counselors and things like that, but I've changed. Since I became sober, I have decided to give everything a chance. If sitting down talking to another human being about my problems and find out that most of the problems that I do have are actually generated in my head. Externally, there's really no problems, but as an addict and alcoholic, I'm constantly fighting inside my head fighting against urges. I haven't had urges to drink, but I've had stressful moments and the thought has crossed my mind. And you're like, I'll go out and get some beer. But then I can play the movie forward really quick in my head and see where I was at a year and a half ago, drinking a fifth of whiskey every day. I'm fortunate to be alive. Many guys that have gone through what I've gone through haven't lived. And there's guys that are still going through it now. I applaud anybody that wants to stop. Not everyone's an alcoholic or an addict. The thing with me is I'm an alcoholic and it's not going to change. When I was 19 years old, I did something stupid on the weekend as a private, but I got called in the first sergeant's office. The first sergeant told me when I was 19 years old, Petit, you're an alcoholic. Never even came back up in my memory again until I was in treatment about a year ago. And I was thinking about that. I ended up calling that first sergeant up and thanking him for telling me that. I didn't apply it, but man, I wish I would have. If I could go back 30 years, if there's to be one thing that I could change, it wouldn't be money, it wouldn't be relationships, it would be not taking drugs or drinking. That in itself would have changed the whole trajectory of my life. My life has been great. Don't get me wrong. I've been functional at best. I've been functional at my worst. Friends of mine told me that they had seen it in me. When I was working for physical science, I had about 10 guys working for me, all former fifth group guys, which was great. Yeah. They seen it, but I didn't have any problems. People that hold on to that and think that they don't have an issue, even though they might, things aren't going to get better. The only thing I got to question myself is, if this was a beer can and I took a drink and drank half of it, could I put it down? Yeah. And not drink anymore? My answer is no. I know I can't do that. I'll find every way to drink the other half of that can. With the trauma that the guys have gone through in the last 20 plus years of all ages, drinking and drugs, they intensify PTSD, they intensify TBIs. Guys end up going from being super physically fit and strong to sitting on a couch, not moving. And I did that for a while. And that's how guys end up dying in their 50s. I'm wanting to change that pattern with myself. And if anybody in your community at all, you have my number. Anybody can call and talk to me, and I'd be happy to push them in the directions they need to go, or I'll help them myself. It's a significant issue, and more people have it than there's a lot of people that have alcoholism and drug issues. It's embarrassing initially, but now that I see what recovery's done for myself and done for others, and the miracles that actually happen when you do recover, where my head's at today, I can't even tell you. I can't tell you about my past, but I can tell you about the last year and a half of my life and everything that I've done. Before that, it's all clouded. Biggest thing is having hope. Making sure that guys know that there is help. I'm trying to say this without getting all emotional and stuff, but it's significant. In the last year, I've seen 5 guys die, 2 of them of natural causes and 3 of self-inflicted stuff. And it's sad to see that. And it's guys that that you just talked to a couple of days before, and they're gone. In asking your friends the hard questions, are you having problems with something? And don't stop with, no, I'm fine. The words "I'm fine" are like the worst 2 words in the language. Guys will talk to other guys. When they see something that has worked for someone, they might gravitate. I've had 2 guys come to me and ask me for help, and I point them in the direction, and they're doing good. I will say, wherever you're at in your life, there's hope. That's it. So.
I visited with the guy that reached out to me just a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, I know that I'm having some issues. He's moved on, got a civilian job, working in law enforcement, and he's still having some of the same issues that he did back when he was in the military. And I know that I had to have some pretty frank talks with him to say, look, you can sugarcoat things, you can try to hide things away. The bottom line is that when you're talking to other people that are used to dealing with people in that community or trying to find help for people, you're really not going to hide anything. And I had the biggest thing was getting him to be honest with himself. Mm-hmm. For you, you and I met just before the whole deal, before you went to Warrior's Heart the first time. I remember what you look like. I'd have to look, but I think I still have a picture. And I had a before and after picture from when you before you went in versus when you got out.
It's shocking. I actually have the picture of myself, and I can send it to you if you want to. I have no problems people seeing it, but when I took that picture of myself, I thought I looked fine. I didn't find that picture until I was almost out of treatment the first time, and I was going through my phone, and I was like, "Who in that? That's me! Holy shit!" And my face was all swollen in, and eyes were all sunken in and stuff.
You were gray. Your physical color, you were gray.
Yeah, that's the problem when you're dealing with this stuff yourself. You look at yourself in the mirror every single day. Guess what? You look the same every single day. Yeah. It's when outside people start noticing things, and then fast forward in recovery, and all of a sudden they're like, "Holy cow, dude, you look like completely different." Being able to have that getting rid of those urges of wanting to drink, it's hard. And depending on where people are at in their sobriety, I needed treatment. Some people might not need treatment. There's 12-step programs and all kinds of other things they can do that work. Today, I've lived a great life. I'm doing my memoirs right now because today I have so many hobbies, and I'll tell you more about this in a second. But being able to look back at where you're at and seeing where you're at today, it's huge. When I was drinking and living in Charlotte, North Carolina, I was the angry guy when I got cut off on the road. I'd follow a person to a stoplight, pull them out of the car, and I never got arrested, but I was doing things that I shouldn't be doing. How am I today? Today, I'm so laid back, I'm almost sleeping. But getting that fire out of my system, I was taking uppers and downers and painkillers and all this other stuff. So my head was all over the place. But looking at it now, today, if I'm in traffic, I'm not in a hurry because I'm retired. The biggest message is there's hope. There's help for people that need it.
Are you able or willing to share what your experience was when you went through recovery? You're not the only person that I know that has gone through that program down there, that I've recommended other people to go through that program down there. Can you share what that looks like? Because for a lot of guys, I think there's a lot of fear of the unknown. Mm-hmm. The first hurdle is admitting that they have a problem. The second hurdle is, what does that look like for me to get past this problem?
Going through, signing up and actually saying, I have a problem and I need to go to treatment. Maybe not everyone needs treatment, but if treatment is what you think you need,
Yeah.
all the anxiety that I had about going into treatment, there's no fear for that. Everyone there is there. They want to help you. If you're going in there on drugs, if you're going in there as an alcoholic or both, you're going to be around nurses and doctors that are going to watch you as you detox. Everyone detox is different. I was a person, I never had seizures and all this other stuff or bodily problems from my drinking. Fortunately, I didn't, but some people do, and they need the medical attention. Once they get out of that, you're in a program. It's designed around military applications. You have a mission folder and you're doing different things, different classes, guest speakers come in. Counseling is the biggest thing. You'll have a substance abuse counselor and a trauma counselor when you go into these facilities. Anybody else, the first time you're in there with them, you're not going to say nothing to them. You're just going to be like, whatever. Eventually you open up. You'll see that people that are in the treatment ahead of you are doing really good. And if you're only a week or two into it, in a 5-week program, it's significant. That's the base level treatment that they have. Extended past that, my first treatment did the 42 days treatment. Then I stayed for an additional 90 days. It worked for me for the drug part. The booze was a lot deeper than I thought it was. So I went through all the same training again. And it was good the second time because I absorbed it a lot better. I knew where my weaknesses were at. And I fixed them. But then after the treatment, I decided I was going to stay in sober living, which is a community of military guys and law enforcement. They're all going to vary in their services and stuff like that, if it's 4 years or 20 years. It's, you build friendships there that, because you end up talking about things that you wouldn't talk with anyone else about. It's a good way of getting those monkeys off your back. Treatment isn't the end of the line, it's the beginning of your future. That's the biggest thing. People think, I'm at rock bottom now, I've got to go into treatment. No, if you're alive and you're going into treatment, that's a good thing. A lot of people don't get that chance to go into treatment. And if there's people out there that have been in treatment before and they failed and they've been through, I know guys that have been in treatment 10 times. And their 11th time, guess what? They're still sober. Everyone's got a different way they're going to retain it. The biggest thing is don't let your mind screw with you. You're going to be telling yourself, I can't do it for this and that, or I'll go next week. No, if you're committed to it, go, roll, get through the gates, whatever treatment center it is, and get the treatment. If anybody wants to talk to me, I'll point them in the directions that I think are helpful. If you have someone else that you can talk to, have someone else help you. In my case, Karen had made all my arrangements, my first treatment. And honestly, I don't know how I made it there my second time. I believe I had called them up, and then between Warriors and then the Green Beret Foundation, they got everything. I had a plane ticket. I don't remember getting on the airport and leaving and landing in San Antonio. It gets bad. It took me about a week to figure out where I was at. This might ring with other people, but I used to drink so much that I would get in fights with my significant other so that I could go to a hotel room and sit there and drink. That's sad. And it's not hard for me to admit it anymore. Thinking back on where I was at all those times and all my money I spent on hotel rooms just to drink. It wasn't chasing women or anything, it was drinking. That was my important thing. So
I don't know if you remember some of our middle of the night conversations that we had before you went and got help, but you were one that I just constantly prayed for.
I appreciate that.
And really wanted you to be able to get the help that you needed. Because I know when you and I first met, your significant other had called and said, if he can't get some help, he's on the edge. And I was like, let's do whatever it is we got to do to try to help him. And it basically came down to said, I can do everything in the world on my end, but until he gets past the rest of that, there's nothing I can do.
That's a key right there that you just said. For people getting sober, you don't do it for anybody else except for yourself. If you put anything in front of your sobriety, your job, your family, you're going to lose it. Keep yourself sober and everything will fall. Everything starts to fall in place. But when you start putting things in front of your sobriety, you're going to fail. And that's one thing that I learned. My addictions and stuff do push-ups behind me, waiting for me to screw up, and they're going to jump on me. And I see it every day. I just have so many things so many things that I keep my mind occupied when I'm shopping, and I go past the beer cooler. man, it's hot. It's 90 degrees out here. I would love to have a cold beer, but I drink other things now. But walking past the beer cooler, I don't think of the beer. I think about going fishing with my son. One of the therapies, they reprogram my head. That's what I see. I think of fishing with my kids, but constantly keeping myself occupied. I don't want to be just left with nothing to do. Then that's where problems arise. And I'm assuming most people are the same way.
Yeah. I just don't think a lot of people understand what they're losing while they're losing it.
You don't see what you're losing. And for me, I lost my family. I lost a marriage of 20 years. Both my kids, I didn't necessarily lose them. I pushed myself out of their life because of drugs and alcohol. And now that I'm sober, this is the hard part now. I'm sober now, but now I'm having to repatch all these relationships that I screwed up. And I realize today, not every single person is going to accept my apology. I've done enough horrible things. People that know me today that didn't know Art when he was drinking, they're like, I can't believe that. I'm like, that's the way it is. If anybody ever wants to talk, I can tell you the pitfalls once you leave treatments, going home and you feel all great, but everything in your home is still messed up. That's the way things usually are. Then you're going back into stress again. I've learned how to shuffle all that stuff around in my head and make sure that my focus stays where it needs to be, and that's not drinking and doing drugs. To me, it's important. I just got a new PCP at the hospital here, and telling them my history, told them I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict. I told them, don't ever give me any narcotics. I said, if I ever go into surgery, I don't want to go home with narcotics. I gave him everything bad about me, just so he knows. It keeps you honest.
I think too, for a lot of family members and people that have been hurt along the way during that process, hopefully they come around to realize that the person that was a different person than the one that's recovered, and the one that's recovered is the better version that you wanted to have. All right, and we're back going. But yeah, no, I appreciate you being able to share. And I know that's been a long road, and your willingness to come on here, I know is going to help a whole lot of other people that are where you have been and can get where you are now and find that peace.
The struggles that I had prior to going into treatment, the biggest thing that I had was who I was, where did I come from, the things that I did in my past, the units that I was assigned to, all these things. None of that makes any sense. It doesn't matter. Everyone that goes into treatment, you're all equally the same. I struggled with that for the longest time because I thought I could fix the problem myself, because that's what you're always conditioned to do, is fix your own problems. You can't fix that problem on your own. Some people can. I wasn't one of them.
I think to a certain degree, we all have got to have some help, whether we want to admit that we need that help or not. But definitely, when you're dealing with any type of substance abuse, especially because alcohol is a physical dependency, your body becomes dependent on it. It's that detox that has to take place, and you really have to be careful in that process too. It's good to have that trained help available to be able to get you through that.
If anybody ever has a question on it, there's a bajillion treatment centers out there, but the one that worked for me, it's the only one I've been to. I just know that the level, you had everyone from Air Force cooks all the way to Delta guys in treatment with me, and everybody in between. It's a good environment to be in. It's everyone that has been in other treatment centers. If you go, you're in the best one.
All right. Anything else you want to wrap up with, or anything you want to share?
No,
you want to promote?
Yeah, being sober now and being retired, you got to occupy your time, keep things rolling. A myriad of hobbies. Being out here in North Carolina in the Blue Ridge, I could walk out my back door and literally, I'm on the Blue Ridge Parkway is right there. I walk right onto it. Being able to get out there, see things, and live a life again is pretty significant. Not being cooped up drinking whiskey. My hobbies now, I just started a YouTube page as a hobby 33 days ago. I've got everything from the squirrels in my front yard to bears that I seen a couple days ago, to some wild turkeys, to the rain on the roof, and everything in between. I got 3,000, I think, subscribers now. So
yeah, that's awesome.
It's fun. The biggest thing is that I have to keep myself moving all the time, from the time I wake up until the time I go to sleep. And there's plenty of things for me to do. I'm shooting again, so that's one thing that I didn't do a lot of. and staying healthy. I'm the same age as old people, man. I got to keep myself in shape.
Yeah. So if you're getting up there with old people, so am I. So
Yeah, we all are.
all right, I do appreciate it. I'll put any information that you want me to share.
Yeah, I can email you all my contact info, and how to reach me. Yeah, do that.
And I'll put that on when we air. This will air probably at the beginning of September. I've got a pipeline. I need to get a few more episodes scheduled out for the rest of the year, but we'll definitely wanted to be able to get you on, and just have really loved the fact that you are where you are now. And I'm glad that you are.
I'm glad that I'm here right now talking to you, because I'm not pushing daisies somewhere.
Yeah.
That's always the better part of this. I'm living, and
Yeah.
not every day's perfect. Most of the days are, though.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome. I appreciate you coming on. And for those of you that tuned in, thank you for coming and listening. And please, if you have questions, if you have anything that you need, if you're having any of these struggles, please reach out to me. Please reach out to Art, and we can help you get the resources that you need. Until next time.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Approach. Please hit that like button and subscribe for the latest episodes. If you would like to be a guest or would like for Dr. McAlister to speak at your business or event, you can email him at info@drdavismcallister.com. You can also go to his website at drdavismcallister.com.